everyone, this is Diane. I have spent a little bit of time this morning working on these journals, the windows and walls, and I copy dyed some scrapbook paper and I cut and collated the signature, so I'm making two journals with three signatures. Sorry, I was trying so hard not to do that. And I think there are 8 or 9 pages per signature, folded pages, which makes 32 surfaces per signature. And I have sewn some lace on the edges of the front edge of each signature. And I selected a door image from my porch prints to put on the front. It'll be a pocket. And that's as far as I've gotten with doing the signatures. So I have the scrapbook paper that is copy dyed. This is a piece of copy dyed paper. The digital kit from Elsie Bell's journals, Elsie Bell, whatever it was. It's not that anymore, and somebody let me know because I couldn't remember what she changed her name to. And somebody in the comments from a previous video, the first video I did showing my supplies, let me know. I'll have to go back and look at those comments and see what the correct name is, because I couldn't link it. I couldn't link this kit, even if she still has it. I don't think she's on Etsy anymore. I think she just has her own website. So I'll try to find it and link it. And then I just have some graph paper, more copy dyed scrapbook paper. This is from a magazine, has a window, and wallpaper and digital. So pretty straightforward as far as pages go, but I think I'm going to just work on covers in this video because I showed my supplies and I had all of these window images and door images from the Elsie Bell's, what used to be Elsie Bell's studio. I have those journal cards, and then I have some from Mrs. Coggs that are called The Wisdom of Doors, and she has some quotes. And when I got my supplies out, I had printed both of those sets twice, so I have way more cards than I need. But I have them all divided up, so each book gets all of the cards, and whatever I don't use, I will probably send along with the... Oh no, I might save them for when I make a house journal. So I am using these pressboard file dividers that are very thick, and they have the metal tabs, and I had to use 2 folders to create one cover because that's how I cut it. So I cut the first one with that piece, and then the second one with this piece. And I'll make things out of these. You see, if you saw the other video, I used some pieces from a previous journal that I had made. I had leftover pieces, and I made some pockets and a tuck spot here. So I have to make more of these. So I won't let any of that pressboard go to waste because it is vintage. And it wasn't cheap. I got it at the flea market, but they charged a bit for it. So this one is going to have a green front and a blue back. That's what I had to work with. The other one will have a blue front, and we're going to work on that some because I'm going to get this to a certain stage, and then we'll have to move over to the one that I already started working on. So here are the covers. I've cut them to size, and the pages fit in there, I hope. Let's try it out. Yeah, they fit in there nicely. And I'm going to put a door on the front. But I don't want to cover up any of that metal tab, so I think I want to center it more because I'm not gonna put a title or a book plate or anything on this. This one has a label, a vintage label in there, and it's got, I think it's got some acetate on top of it. And I tried to, I stuck this in there to try to move that out, but it's in there, and I'm not going to move it because it's a really cool vintage piece of ephemera. The other one didn't have its label, so I put a fresh piece of cardstock in there that I can stamp a word on it. I don't know what word I will stamp on it yet, but I'm just going to leave this the way it is. So I figured with that I didn't need to have a book plate or a title. So I'm just trying to decide exactly where I want this door to be. I think I'll move it right down there. So I can feel the metal. It's quite thick. So I'm just going to take my pencil and draw around it. And then cut that away. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, before I glue this down, I want to do something to the back. So I have this stamp. It's a Stampin' Up! Background stamp. I got it at a yard sale for $5 from my friend that sells Stampin' Up! So I'm going to use that. And I'm going to emboss it. I had some leftover pieces of the press board, and I tried 2 different colors of the Tim Holtz Distress Embossing Glaze. So this one is Walnut Stain, and this one is Rusty Hinge, and I decided I like the Walnut Stain better. So that's what we're going to do. I took my, where is it, my embossing buddy. I don't know what's in there, cornstarch or something. But if you rub it on your surface before you emboss, it'll keep embossing powder from sticking just to the surface, and it'll only stick to the stuff that is stamped with the embossing ink. Because you could get oils from your fingers on there, and the embossing powder might stick to the oils. Oh, I don't need that yet. I need this. So this is my Versamark watermark stamp pad. You can get stamp pads that are actually labeled embossing ink, but it's the same thing. It's clear and it stays wet. It's juicy. It's not like a dye ink that dries really fast. This is a wet ink. Can you see it's shining on there? So let's see. I do want to make sure I go all the way out to here, but I don't need to come all the way down. I'm going to have something else covering this edge, so I want to make sure. Just kind of mark. Has to go there. So I'm actually laying it a little bit on top of the metal and trying to press down so it will get onto the file folder. It might not all the way because the metal will keep it from, it raises it up, so it'll keep it from reaching down. And then I will, let me see. Okay. And I'll just have to do a little bit at the bottom. Make sure I got enough ink on there further down, because I'm going up higher than I need to just to make sure. And I want to sprinkle my embossing powder on before this dries. I should not have done it on that side because now I've got wet embossing ink there that the embossing powder will stick to. So I'm just putting on my embossing powder. And I'm not wasting this. I will put it back into the container. Just want to make sure all of the stamped area gets covered. Now there's a smudgy part right there. I want to deal with that. Well, that might get covered. Yeah, I don't need to deal with that because it'll get covered. That's good because it's right in the middle of all the other wood grain. They don't skimp on these. These are full containers. I've got embossing powder all over my hands. Now I'm going to just do a little bit right here, but then I'm going to switch over to the other cover because it took a while to melt all of this embossing powder. You can see, so I want to get that embossing powder off of that, but you can see there's just a little bit of a space there where the stamp didn't touch down because of the thickness of that. Trying to get some cord length here. Can you see that turning shiny and melting? So I would do that to melt all of this embossing powder. I'm going to set this in a safe place so it doesn't get smudged. So you don't have to watch while I do that whole thing. So this is the other cover. And I already started on it. And it has this metal piece is in a different position. So I cut down, I had to cut out an opening in the door further down. And because of the shape, I guess it seems like more of the wood is exposed, but maybe not. And there's printing here because that's the back side and I wanted the front side here, and there's printing here. And there's printing on the inside of this one because I didn't want these to be in the same position. So if I flip it over, it's up here. So I'll have to cover those. So you can see how it looks with the embossing powder, the embossed wood grain. And I can take this back out and I can stamp. I have little word stamps or letter stamps, and I can stamp, or I could stamp a word on there. Just haven't thought that far ahead. All right, so I need to cover that. It may be covered with fabric, but I thought it would be fun to just take a piece of this wallpaper and cover. But I don't need to cover, I don't want it to go too far over and cover too much of the wood. And then I think the house will cover the rest, or the door. Yep, that would cover everything. If I just make a mark and start cutting, then maybe I can cut along a line of the plaid. Okay, so And this will be covered with fabric. I don't think that was very straight, but yeah, I have to cut some more off of that. I didn't do that right, but this edge is going to be covered with fabric anyway. So I can even cut it shorter, narrower. Okay, so now I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac and glue this down. So these covers are comprised of vintage pressboard file dividers with metal tabs, pretty substantial metal tabs, with embossing ink, embossing powder, wallpaper, a digital image, and some fabric. And on this part, I will hang something off of there probably. This is a little bit long, so I can just trim that part off when the glue is dry. Okay, there's that. This embossing powder feels gritty everywhere. I don't think I need to ink around the edge of this, do I? Maybe I should. Okay, now that is going to be a fun journal cover, won't it? I'm going to make sure that I get right to the edge so it doesn't lift up, and it's got to be glued down good on top of that embossing powder and on top of the wallpaper. Seeing if it looks straight. I'm going to take a soft cloth when I'm done here, when I can go get one, and just brush that off real good because it still feels gritty. That must be a really fine embossing powder because it seems to just create more of a leftover mess than other ones, but I love the embossing glaze. It's kind of see-through. I don't think you can tell so much on this with this combination, but if I stamped over a book page, you'd be able to see the print underneath the embossed image, which is really cool. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to put this on the inside because that's where the text is. Doesn't that look nice with that embossing powder? I really like that, the embossed wood. I don't know what else I'll do. I might have a pocket on the back here. I didn't put any on this piece. Oh. Is this? Yeah, this is for this. The other one was the other one that I started with that had the green back. Okay, so I put tape on everything except this edge. So this is my red line tape. It's not red, it's the backing that's red. So when I peel the backing off, it will be clear. And you can get this at any craft store. They each have their own brand, but sometimes it has a small spool, and sometimes they have a big spool. These are the, oh dear, these are the 1/8 inch ones that I ordered by mistake from Amazon. I don't like to use the 1/8 inch ones, but I use them once in a while. I get the 1/4 inch. There's 1/8, 1/4, and 1/2 inch. So I'll just peel off the red. Oh, I don't have my Tyvek ready. Before I expose that adhesive, I want to cut my Tyvek. So this is a sheet of Tyvek. I got it from Amazon, but I'll show you the package. I have 2 packages, thank goodness, because when I went to link it, last time I showed it, I can't get it in the sheets anymore, but you can still get them in the large envelopes, which is what I always used to use. I just cut the envelopes up. So Tyvek is plastic paper. It doesn't tear. It cuts very easily, but you can't tear it. So it's really good for reinforcing things like this. So you can just look on Amazon for, or I think in office supply stores you can get it too. Tyvek paper or Tyvek envelopes. It's also used in construction, but you probably don't need a roll of Tyvek from a construction site. Now I'll peel the red backing off. You've seen me do, if you've watched my channel for a while, you have seen me put these covers together many times. Or you've had the opportunity to, let's put it that way. I usually use a thicker chipboard for the spine, but this is one of the flexible hanging file folders. Sometimes I like to use these to make a flexible spine. It is 2 inches wide. That is my preferred spine width. and it's the height of these pieces, which is 8 3/4. But a lot of times I don't construct the spine or the cover until I have my signatures all done and filled with embellishments in case I need a thicker spine than 2 inches. But since I want to get these covers put together, because I've been thinking about how I'm going to do these covers, I decided we're just going to go with 2 inches, and I won't make the pages too thick for it. We'll have to limit the thickness of embellishments and stuff. So I am lining, you can see I've got, oh, you can't see what I'm doing. I've got my grid here. If I'd removed this, it would probably help, but I can see the grid at the bottom, and that's really all I need. I lined up my first piece along the bottom, and I can line the other ones up in the same way, with just a tiny space in between each piece so that they can move, open and close. And be careful to not get your finger on the tape, because then you pull your hand away and you pull the piece with it. I do that a lot. So I try to be pretty careful with this step, because this is the foundation of your book. Okay, they're all there. I've got my Tyvek. I'm just going to carefully lay it down as centered as I can. It doesn't really matter, but I just want to make sure all the tape is covered. And I laid it down a little bit low so the top isn't covered, but that is okay, because that will be covered with fabric. So, I mean, sometimes I cut it so it's a little bit short on both ends. It doesn't matter. You've got your reinforcement there. So it looks like I have this piece a little bit longer than it needs to be. And that'll all be covered with fabric. Just going to trim this. The fabric piece that I selected was already cut into a strip, and it's not very wide. So I want to make sure I cover up all the stuff, like this stuff needs to be covered. So I'll trim off all the excess. It just needs to be wide enough to cover the spine and to cross over onto the front and the back covers. So let's make sure, yep, it covers. This looks like it could be a curtain material, doesn't it? I think that's called a foulard print. It's looking good. So I'll take my piece, and it's frayed at the edge, but I'll cover that with something. I think I'll put that on the back. That's got more fraying. And I have the short end at the bottom to fold up, and then the front piece, or the big piece, will wrap around, and there will be a raw edge facing down. That's just how I always do it. Doesn't matter, but I like to have a raw edge facing downward for some reason. I don't know why. Seems more secret that way, I guess. Let me see if it's centered. Looks pretty good. I'm going to put glue on this short end. It's my Fabri-Tac. I just have it in this icing bottle. And then I'll put glue on this part. I didn't select a trim to hide these raw edges. Maybe I can pick one out real quick. Get rid of that glue. I'll have to put a, oh, I guess it's coming off. I was going to say I have to put a book plate here to cover up any excess glue I get on this, but it's rubbing off. These folders are kind of, they have a finish on them, so they're not porous. I've made several journals with these kinds of folders. I got some of the blue and some of the green ones all in one batch at the flea market. I think it was early last year or the year before. And she had a higher price than I wanted to pay, and she did let me, I asked her if she could go do any better, and she gave me a slight discount. So she realized that they were worth, she could get the money out of them, but she's good to me there. So this is a little bit jagged here, and it's not lined up down here, and it's frayed here, but I'm going to cover those edges. A lot of times I put paper, most times I put scrapbook paper or something on the inside cover, but I want to leave the folder as much as I can. So I'm just going to cover up the raw edges of the fabric. Let's see what I have. Oh, I don't have my ceiling light on. Maybe that'll help. Sorry. Thought it looked a little dark in here. Let's have this white crochet trim, which I think would look pretty. I don't want it to go too far onto that door piece. Got thread sticking to the glue on my fingers. Okay, that'll work, I think. And I might just use a ribbon or something for the inside. Oh, I wanted to show you the stamps. I told you I showed you my supplies, but I hadn't gotten my stamps out. So I have these two house stamps. They're like tall, narrow houses. Really cool. There's no image on the back. And then these. The whole set. So I can use these in this journal, even though it's about windows and doors. And I do want to make journals that are specifically about houses or home. What are windows and doors on but houses and buildings? So I think it's appropriate to use the house stamps. Do you think I should have embossed that wood grain on the whole entire back? I don't know. I don't think so. It's nice doing it on the front because obviously that background stamp doesn't cover the whole surface, but you don't get a line of demarcation because it's underneath the door. Or on the back it would show. I'm hoping that the ink underneath that embossing powder doesn't dry. And all the embossing powder will blow off. On that other journal that I started. I've never done that and let it sit so long without drying it or melting it. In which case I would have ruined my last two pieces of the file folder. Big pieces. Let's see. I've got blue, but it's picot edge, and I don't really want the picot edge. Oh, that gingham is great, but it's green. Got this. This is an old Stampin' Up! One I've had for a long time. These spools from Stampin' Up! Came with a lot of ribbon on them. I like that. I think it's 10 yards. I cut off part of it because it was getting down low. I mean, there's still a lot in there, but I trimmed the spool. I know there are so many things you could do with a window and door theme. You could have doors opening inside the journal, double doors and acetate and stuff for windows. I don't know if I'm going to do any of that. I don't know if I want to do anything elaborate. We'll see. Well, you can see I'm going to glue that ribbon down, and won't that make a fun journal? My paper fell out. That's not it. Might have to make another one. Maybe a little bit thicker so it won't fall out, just slide out so easily. And I'll figure out what to stamp in there, but there's a start. That's our cover. Let me just see if this powder will melt and not blow off. I got my paper cutter in the way of my cord. Okay. I think we're good. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to be able to melt that, and I'm going to do it right now. So I'm going to say goodbye, and hopefully you'll come back for the next installment of Windows and Doors. I'll see you soon. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.